if you have a team of 3 or 4 people or just getting started, then this is probably not a huge thing that you need to focus on. But if you start having a bigger team, or you start to elevate people in leadership positions, or giving them more responsibility, and or compensating them like they have that responsibility, then you better address that mental, emotional capacity to actually do the job.
We don't think everyone should try to go out and build power strength. You don't have to open a power strength or whatever else. If you want to build something that's relatively significant, you want to delegate, you want to have a team, all those things, you need to have your together. Welcome to another episode of the Build Your Gympire podcast. You're in the right place if you're a gym owner, personal trainer, box owner, fitness pro that's looking to grow your gym, grow your business in ways that you, your community, the people you serve, and not least importantly, your bank account are going to feel absolutely awesome about. Today, we're missing one of our large, hairy, fun, intelligent bears, and we're only speaking to one, Mr. Mark, as he likes to pronounce the name. But we're going to dive into, I'm really excited about this topic, Mark. We're going to dive into what managing your 4 locations looks like now. So Mark has this incredible operation, right? 4 gyms, multi-million-dollar revenue. I don't want to get into numbers that you may not want to get into, but they're doing pretty stinking well and have this really incredible operation. Mark, how many total team members is it at this point?
31.
So 31 total team members. He's probably hired and fired more people in his little time in business than most of us will ever do in our lives, right, at this point. And I'm just really excited to hear about what the management of that type of organization looks like for you at this point. So where should we start, Mark? What does it take to manage?
Let's start off. That's really good. It's a great topic. Sometimes it's tough to sit back and reflect a little bit, especially again, we're recording this kind of around the turn of the year. So it's like, oh, what happened this past year? How did we get here? Reflecting back a little bit. We're 12 and a half years into business. I think that's first and foremost. So what I'm going to dive into is 12 and a half years worth of work and errors and also some successes too, but finding that groove. And not going to get too tactful today, but trying to talk through the overview for sure. And really, I want to say we didn't double in size in the last. We probably doubled our team size in the last 2 years for sure. We made another location in that time frame as well, but growing rather quickly. We're at the point now too where it's like you have a bigger team when you have multiple locations. I've actually had multiple locations longer than I've had one. I think that's important to understand too, because you think differently at each stage for sure. But when people talk about systems for one location, you can hide a lot because usually you're the owner, the founder is on site. They have a big leadership position, so you can hide a lot. When I made number 2, that was drastically exposed. When 3, the systems break, you have to reevaluate, and then obviously with 4, it's a completely different ball game. But you eventually start to get a little more economies of scale, so to speak. But the specific skill set needed in your team members definitely changes as you grow and get bigger. When you're a little bit smaller, you need a lot of generalists for sure. A lot of people sitting in multiple seats wearing many different hats. Like most small business owners will tell you, jack of all trades, master of none, which I love the jack of all. I'm still a fan of jack of all trades. We want people with multiple skill sets, and we still have that even at the top. We're not quite there yet where all you do is this one thing. But we're getting there, and we're also seeing the longer our team members are with us as well, and they are rising to the top, and they are getting more, honing in their specialties. It does take a little more work, and then you'd have to manage that workload as well too. So that's been a huge, I guess, undertaking, and really just an eye-opening thing too, is like, oh, so-and-so will just do this. They're used to it. They can handle it. They know how to do it. Well, knowing how to do it and have the capacity to do it are way two different things. So now it's much more.
Oh, you need to say that again.
So
knowing how to do it and having the capacity to do it are two different things. Oh, shit.
There you go. But then it's like, then it's figuring out, all right, well, how do I maneuver? How do I manage this capacity? Right. And I'll pause and stop there too, because this is why I'm so big on mindset, and capacity isn't just time, right? And it's not just skill. I think it's the emotional capacity. It's the mental capacity to be able to do the job. And nobody talks about that, but that's why I wanted to bring it up, because the more experience I get dealing with people, that's a huge piece that needs to be out there. And again, if you have a team of 3 or 4 people or just getting started, then this is probably not a huge thing that you need to focus on. But if you start having a bigger team, or you start to elevate people in leadership positions, or giving them more responsibility, and or compensating them like they had that responsibility, then you better address that mental, emotional capacity to actually do the job, and not just do the job when it's going well, but to do the job when things get a little rocky or there's friction there. You can't be their first phone call. And I'm speaking from personal experience with this. I made a lot of mistakes creating learned helplessness because I could wear many hats. And I like the challenge, and I like to work, and I love what I do. But you eventually get so big where it's like, okay, like we could keep going on this route. We'd probably be okay. And you look at the numbers, we'd probably be okay. But there's other areas that are falling off, or worse, I took this as far as I could take it solo. This needs to keep going and keep expanding. I need other people to help. And then people say, oh, just delegate. Delegation is a massive skill, and you need lots and lots of reps to do it. So, GR, I'm going to slow down there because I feel like that was a lot. I'm going to take a quick breath. I'm going to take a quick breath and get back on track to what we were talking about.
I don't even know if I want to get back on track to what you were talking about, to be honest, because
we'll keep rolling then. I'll get us back.
Yeah. So you hit on something that's like, I don't want us to just gloss over that because it's something that I'm dealing with now. It's something that I think we see anybody that's trying to scale the organization. Because you said just because what was it? Just because someone has the ability doesn't mean they have the capacity, right? You also mentioned
is different than having the capacity to do it, for sure.
Yeah, and you also mentioned just having the sort of the mindset that is necessary to even get to the point of managing an operation this size. Because I'll tell you, right? Because we've probably more than doubled our team just in the past year, right? We've been fortunate enough to have a hell of a lot of growth, and this, like, I don't know that we've built it intelligently, but like we've got a ton of moving parts in different areas, and it's something that I have struggled with personally, where it's like, dude, I have to like, this is hard, like it is difficult, and you have to really be able to take some punches, I think, to keep playing the game. Like, I think one of the reasons that we're probably, I say we collectively, you and I, like, you've been so successful, partially just because you just didn't fucking die, right? Partially because the business is still here. And, when you just keep growing and keep plugging along, like eventually you look up 10 years later and like, oh shit, like this is a pretty good little business. And I feel like it's a similar thing for us in the agency space. You look around and all of these like, oh, get 123 members in 2 seconds with no work, like all these like fly by night, like mama's basement motherfuckers, like they're all gone. Now new ones replace them every day. But it's like, why is our business doing so well at this point? Partially just because we didn't die. And why didn't we die? Dude, like it'll be very easy for me, like you may be way stronger than me, not just in your bench press, but it'd be way super easy for me to just be like, fuck, man, fuck this, and quit. And so, like, if you want to grow something significant, and I'm not telling everybody, and Mark would agree with this. We talked about this before the episode. We don't think everyone should try to go out and build power strength. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of a look under the kimono, to see what it's like to manage that type of operation. But it's like, you don't have to open a power strength or whatever else. Like, if you want to build something that's relatively significant, like you want to delegate, you want to have a team, all those things, you need to have your shit together. Like, you need to have a little bit of grit, and probably a lot of fucking grit to stick to it, because sticking to it, I think, is probably like, it's just, I don't want to say what percentage it is of the battle, but man, it's not a small percentage, right?
Yeah, it's to your point too. For one, I don't have notes in front of me, but like the exact number, I think I hire a lot of people this year, spent a lot of time hiring, really increased my own personal skill set with that, but really increased the system for the company from a recruiting, hiring, and onboarding standpoint, because it was a weak spot of ours and one we're going to continue to hone in on, and but we're 10 times better, light years ahead of where we were a year ago. Just from taking the practice and taking the reps and going through some of those growing pains as well. I think we hired 18 new people on our staff currently, and we lost 7, something like that. So we actually hired like 25 people this past year, in multiple roles. And we had multiple people getting pregnant, multiple people moving, like stuff like that, where it's like you have so how do you maintain the culture and then alone the service level while this really this transformation is happening, right? And it's good. You're upgrading your staff at really all positions. It was amazing. But it's like you got to weather the storm a little bit. And I think this is where it comes back to, because we always say you can't scale them. We're not going to scale a mediocrity. You can't scale a mediocre service. So what are those key pillars that you're going to focus on? One is the core values. One is the vision. Another one is going to be just clear standards and clear expectations. Guess what we talked about like the entire year, and guess what I'm on. My role now is just on repeat. I still address the whole team weekly, daily, for the most part, but now I need to reinforce that with my second level leadership, which is really my frontline people, how with our structure, and I can get in our structure in a second. But guess what I talked to them about? Core values, our expectations, our standards, right? And coaching them up. So I think that's what you want to start to get to this level. So sometimes it's hard to fathom that. Like we talked a lot of owners, like I have to make a hire, I got to hire. I've never hired this before. How do you onboard them? Like, what do you have them sign? Like a lot of those common questions. And I was in the same boat. Like, fortunately I had a lot of good mentors and guidance with that too. But yes, like how can I get better at that now? Well, you can read and study on it, but which I did, but nothing does it like actually doing it. But what you need to do on a daily basis, what you can control is the values, is having at least a good idea of where I'm going this year, this quarter, right? Of a vision. I'm not saying you plan 10 years out, but what is the standards of your service? What does success look like to you in your business, for your staff? Are you doing that yourself? Like start there, right? And then I mentioned systems earlier. Like again, your systems are, I'm not too big. I wasn't too big on systems early on. I definitely am now because it's everything that we do because we have multiple locations. But if you want to start documenting some of those processes, sure. I'm not going to get into that on this episode, but these are your core. These are to make up your core foundation, whether you have a single location with one staff member or you have multiple with 30, right? It starts there. So that's what you can control today. And I want to emphasize that too. Like, again, this isn't for everybody. This is not one. This is my version that I'm doing, my version of success. Like, and these are gyms, right? But they're more like they're facilities. Like these are 8 to 12,000 square foot facilities. These are not small studios. Like these are operations. We train athletes, we train adults, like, and everything kind of, I won't say everything in between because we're very focused on what we offer now. So we have to do it really well. But like, that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Like these are big places. That's a bigger discussion. That's just a separate discussion anyways, for having a small space compared to a big facility, right? But I don't want to say the risk is high. Having a lot of people, the risk is high. So we got to be buttoned up with this, and that kind of starts with our structure. So I can transition to that.
Hell yeah.
So the structure now, again, which the structure is like, I'm looking at that constantly. And a lot of good resources out there, like the Gino Wickman stuff on traction and all his books, Get a Grip, and like learning all that. Like I dove in all that. I'm a nerd with that stuff. But I try to fit our business into that. And now we kind of morphed and created our version. Like it's okay to change your accountability chart. It's okay to change your roles. We're looking at roles all the time because the business evolves. Your business on the foundation has to evolve. The roles have to evolve. People's daily, what they do on a daily basis, what they're responsible for. You have to constantly look at that. And that eventually creates maybe a separate position or a part-time position. The founder, the owner better be looking at that stuff for the majority of the time, like I do. That's my recommendation, because nothing will dive into your business more than your efficiency and your data. Nothing's going to drive that more right now, especially as you get bigger. But that's a constant, again, evolvement of what, as the business grows, this has to grow as well. So we've done it all too. I've tried to offload too early. When I say too early, not necessarily the business could have used it. It was too early we did not have a clear plan for the role. We did not have clear expectations. And I've tried to do it before I was ready to truly delegate and to truly let somebody do it. And I also made the mistake of like, you hire a person because you like them, they're great, but can they actually do the job, autonomously? Which, again, me, I like to get into the details a little bit. There's a difference between like, well, they need to be able to do the job, and this was my expectation. So at some point, like I had to realize it's okay. Like I'm going to have to be involved in this a little bit. Like they're not getting compensated like they're a standalone 100% autonomous industry expert. I'm actually compensating them to be a great team member, core value fit, and they have some skills they're hungry to learn, but we have to help them do the job a little bit. And quite frankly, we need to develop our systems to be able to do that and tailor our expectations. And so that led us to kind of stepping out some of these positions, um, and tiering that out from a level, kind of we call them just levels, different level standpoint. So now we have a better expectation and clearly defined standards for the role, what needs to be done to see if they're actually hitting it or not, but also then show them what's to come. Like, hey, if we master this skill, if you can do this autonomously, then this is where you can go. That's just happened by doing the work, right? But also is my own realization of like, you know what, like we're not ready to hire this role yet. We didn't have a good structure and a good foundation to be able to like take someone's really livelihood in our hands and be a good fit for them. So all this has everything we've built has come out of that. So I don't dive into too many specifics. You don't have a visual, but I'll try to clearly explain it. I referenced traction before. They have,
Yep.
the CEO visionary, then you have the integrator, right? Or like I just call it the COO for our business. And then you have your sales, your marketing, your finance, your operations, all that kind of stuff. We've made our version of that. We've had and I was trying to offload some of the marketing. I was trying to offload some of the I don't want to say daily operations. I'm not involved in the day to day of the actual operations of each gym right now. We have general managers for that, but trying to help and assist them and provide the resource for the managers to create one layer between me and them. And that's the integrator or COO, right? And so we had that position for a while, and just took it away.
So
And
so so you're
we had that role for a while. We took it away just recently, and so now I'll also preface this by saying I've had a lot of people with me for a very long time, so I'm not hiring these people. They're not 1 year into our business. Like they know our business. They're very good at what they do, and because they're really good at what they do, they're able to take on a little bit more, learn skill sets. At the end of the day, I'm still turning trainers into basically mini gym owners operating locations.
Mhm. Yep.
So that is a struggle, and they know that too. And I say the same thing to them. But they're clearly defined values, they're clearly defined expectations. We have very open and honest communication. They know their gaps and where they need to improve on. And I know their strengths and what they're going to really do well. So I can also say, I'm okay with this being a little bit less in this area because they're going to make it up for it here because I know what I value the most out of my leaders. So I want to preface that by saying like these are not just off the street type people. They've been able to elevate to some of these roles, which allows us to maybe to see. And then I have basically split up that COO integrator role into multiple directors. And the directors are designed to really help the managers. They basically they explain it to them like they're a resource, but it's a resource for the managers and our coaches and our staff, but it's a way for we can scale expertise. So we may not have 5 staff members that are all 8-year veterans at one location. That's probably never going to happen because number one, we grow too quickly. But doesn't mean we can't take that expertise and get it down into every location of ours to really raise the floor to have a higher level of service, right? And quite frankly, now to develop our staff a lot faster. Like it shouldn't be, hey, you're
I
gonna
love
have to be,
that.
yeah,
I'm gonna interrupt the shit out of you. Like, I think the concept of raising the floor, right, of your level of service is such like because you're only as good as your worst, you're only as good as your weakest link. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
I agree.
And fuck, man, like that is if y'all are listening, like, and you've got the trainer that you're thinking about in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, that guy, like, he kind of fucking sucks. Like your gym is hurting, right? Because of that weak link, like it is. Oh man.
I'll tell you this too. Like
Shit.
you're right. You said it a little earlier, and what came to mind is like, yeah, we're successful because we just avoided big mistakes, right? Like, just don't make a bad decision. Like, and I kind of couple that with this. It's like we don't have to. I'm not talking about earth shattering stuff. Like, there's tiny little things that happen every day in your business that you can improve on right now. That you don't need to like you don't need some like huge thoughts or huge idea, right? Like,
Mhm.
hey, like we think cleanliness matters, so we want to clean the bathrooms. All right, we'll clean them a couple times a week, or maybe like make sure, oh, they're not dirty yet. It's like, but they get dirty during the day. Like when clients are there, they see it. So how do we make sure this doesn't happen? Well, let's look at our system. Like, okay. And quite frankly, it evolves into like, we're going to check it before the morning shift. We're going to check it after the morning shift. We're going to check it before the afternoon shift. And we're going to check it at the end of the night. Like, that's it. Now it's a part of our system, right? But that little idea came from like, this is just one example, came from this matters to us. We don't need to be brainiacs to do this. Let's just figure out how we can consistently do this or make it repeatable and have some ownership and accountability to it. And I think that's another big phase of what we're getting to, because when you raise the floor, your level of, and we raise your, I don't want to say level of service, but really raise the floor of your staff, which we have tremendously,
Mhm.
especially in this past year. Like they come in, they're ready to be held accountable. Like they want to be held accountable because we're hiring those types of people, but we also can clearly communicate that from the start. So now your whole system should be better because you're not dealing with those issues anymore. You're still going to have issues. Everyone's not perfect, but your issues are definitely different. And quite frankly, they're going to be better issues to solve because they're higher level. They're not tedious things like, oh, we need to take the trash out, right? Um, that's been a huge turn. It's been a huge kind of, I don't want to say transition, but it happens so often, especially in our industry, where like you're trying to make these little changes, like, oh, he's new, he doesn't really know. Like, by the way, we're not even talking training right now,
Yeah, yeah.
which is another big thing that we're assassins on, have a very high standard for. We're just talking about being a pro, which is one of our core values, right? So, um, but the way we integrate those standards, our values into the actual day-to-day system now, man, that's a skill. And if you can do that in multiple fronts, now you're working with something.
So let's break it down into I guess just the structure. Let's break the structure down into a little more detail, right? So right now at this stage, you're CEO visionary and you are setting the tone culture wise. You're looking at data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You remove that like integrator
Mm-hmm.
COO role and kind of split it maybe
Yep.
into what? In a couple of like subject
Great
matter
question.
experts or yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. So we have a director of training, right? So leading our internship is that expert on staff, kind of guides our programming, a lot of continuing education. He's also my highest tenured employee as well. So we're buttoned up, we're aligned. Now have him when he goes to observe at our locations, which I'll talk about that in a second of what has to happen for that to actually make sense because we screwed this
Yeah.
up. Um, like he's not just checking training and evaluating coaches, which he's doing, but like he walks through the facility, he checks equipment, he checks the little things that I would go. So I call it owner eyes. So hey,
That's good.
if I'm in there,
Love
what does
that.
my eye see, right? Which is a whole exercise we've done with my managers and other people, and then they kind of do it too. Like, hey, let's walk around the facility. Tell me what you see. And oh, I see this. Like, you see this pile of dust sitting on top of the thermostat? Like, my members could see that. I guarantee you, a mother of four sees that who cleans their house all the time. Like, they notice
Yeah.
that stuff. That's our clientele. The high school football kid who's a messy room is not going to care about that stuff, but we don't serve just them. So we do a drill called owner eyes, but he's my owner eyes when he goes around and does that. Now, to be able to do that, like he also sits at one of our locations as one of our athlete coordinators. So and he's coaching 20 hours a week. So to be able to allow him to do that with the business needs, and it has evolved to, we need to probably staff that location a little bit better to give him some wiggle room to be able to do this. Otherwise,
Yeah.
he's going to have overcapacity. And this is a guy, and he's a workhorse, right? Anyways, so but him being burned out doesn't help us on any role. So what matters the most, and is the business ready to support that? So that all these roles evolve again with time. That's why we're carefully looking at it and making it all fit. And if you don't like puzzles, then definitely don't open a lot of gyms that don't have members. So that's our director of training. That's been our standard. That's been our longest standard, a kind of directorship, I should say. Now we have a sales director. Also sits in. He's the only one. He's my twin brother Derek. Actually, he sits in the manager seat. He's the only manager that sits in this kind of other directorship right now, just because it's so vast of a. It's going to be so vast of a role. But again, sales education, sales processes, somebody else thinking about these things, right? He's housed at the same location as Skylar, my director of training, because we're basically beefing up that one location so it's kind of our hub. These other people that sit out of that location can do stuff for the whole company. And then we have a director of personnel and business operations. So all recruiting, hiring, onboarding. And then again, she's very good on systems. So she's helping us on the back end, supporting sales, supporting our director of training. Like she's my systems person, right? So her brain is thinking about the operation as a whole, not necessarily on the day-to-day stuff too, but how to make that more efficient, right? And then she's also, again, that personnel isn't just hire, recruiting, onboarding, it's also managing our efficiency and looking at that constantly as well too. So, and then I have not a director, but a business coordinator. So kind of doubles as HR. Sits at one of our locations and does some day-to-day admin type duties as well, but she's also manages all of our employee benefits and payroll and keeps us afloat, right? So she's handling all that. If there's a problem with our, merchant account or our payroll system or whatever, or our Zen planner, like she's getting on the phone and handling that. And again, very solid, been with me a few years now too. So having that back end stuff. So it's like, how do you tie all these people together? And that's just these roles before we get down to the site level.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot the marketing department. We have our marketing, really our marketing department now, where there's 3 full-time staff in there, 2.5. And I'm still kind of overseeing that before I hand it off to. So we'll have a marketing manager overseeing that department as well. And then we get into the site level. We're now our general manager. And because we have athletes and adults and each need their appropriate focus, we split that into some coordinator positions and some coaching roles and, support staff and all that kind of stuff. That we don't need to get into that too much today, but
Yeah.
that's in a nutshell is kind of how we manage 4 large locations in a big company with 30 plus staff. Because we always, not just staff, like we'll have 6 to 12 interns a semester. We always have 1 or 2. We always have a handful of people kind of in between on our paid apprenticeship, so there's a lot of moving parts. And this isn't even talking about like I talk about in other episodes about your professional team. So this has nothing to do with our bookkeeper, CPA, our CFO, or legal. So there's a lot of coordination.
Your marketing.
Your marketing agency, your team, our dream team, right? So we have who's talking to that person, right? So or that staff. Here's the thing, though, with my marketing agency, small plug for Gym Member Machine. Like I don't have to talk to them very often because we have a great system and it runs itself, and the results are amazing. So there you go. I don't like dealing with people that. Why do I have to remind them to do their job? They're big boys. They'll handle it for us, and it's all good, right? We have an issue. We send a Slack, and it's taken care of. And if I didn't, I couldn't function that way because it wrecks my whole ecosystem. So
what do you have, like 2 minutes? You got 2 minutes left?
No, I got 10 minutes.
Okay. So this is awesome. Who do the GMs at each location report to?
Great question. This is recent.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a very good understanding with the guys. And I say guys because they're all guys at this stage. They've been with me a long time. It's like, guys, we could do this COO position, but we have these directors because it allows a constant upper mobility to help. I'd rather keep a leaner team at the top, but we have to have an understanding. If I tell you to do something, it's got to get done because there's no one else that's going to come hold your hand and poke and prod you, to do that. A year or 2 ago, they needed that extra support. Now, no, we don't need that anymore. They know what they need to get done. But also we put in the checks and balances. So that sales director is going to be talking sales with them and focusing on the revenue, right? Personnel is going to be there if they have any personnel issues. Their continuing their training evaluation is going to be there through the director. So we chose to go that route because here's the thing. We're all local. We're all within every location's within 15 to 25 minutes of each other. That's how we operate. That's how we can scale at this level that we do, at a very high standard, right? We're not all spread out. We're not just running the franchise. Oh, watch this video and do it. It's like, no, the owner could walk in, the CEO could walk in and do this. Your director of training could walk in and see you talk face to face. Your director of sales is looking at your pipeline every day, making sure you're getting it done, right? Our marketing team is looking at what their results every single day. And again, they're coordinating between digital, but they're also digital and organic, but also our internal, external, like they're boots on the ground, they're there, right? So that's kind of how our setup functions as well. So they all report to me technically, but But if it's certain areas, they have to go through the proper channels first. So I've made it to where I'm not the first call anymore, and I probably shouldn't even be the second, unless it's an emergency. They're talking to, and we actually pair them up too. It's something new we're doing. Where basically it's like an accountability partner, but we call it a Thunder Buddy, like Ted, the movie Ted, Mark Wahlberg. Like, this is your Thunder Buddy. Talk to your Thunder Buddy.
You have time for the song? Because I could break the song.
um,
When you hear the sound of
so then it's
thunder.
just like that level of accountability because we almost run it like a mini mastermind group too, right? To where, hey, this guy, we pair, and it's strategically paired up where, hey, this person can help you with this, like have someone to talk through. Because if you're a manager, or developing leader, like you can't talk to staff on this stuff. You need to talk to somebody else that's kind of experienced it. We've been done that. That's going really well. And so they talk to the Thunder Buddy, they talk to the director, and then it kind of rolls through me. And again, so far so good. But again, that's been very, I guess, highly trained, highly thought through, very specific. But you're not dealing with, is this person all in? Is this person have the capacity mentally? Like, what's going on? Everyone's a little bit different. Everyone's human, of course, but I'm still very plugged in enough to the data. The data is a whole different story. Like we're very dialed in on the data and the reporting because we have to be, because that's how we hold people accountable to their role. We can't guess at our size. You can't guess. You have to know what's going on. And I would put what we do up against literally anybody from a tracking perspective, let alone at scale. We've really kind of figured that out. And we're always constantly improving that too. But I'm still plugged in enough personally because now I'm freed up a little bit to actually say, hey, how's it going? What are you struggling with? And taking more of that mentorship role, which I already did before, but then I have to like, oh, how's it going? Oh, are you good? Okay, great. Now let's get into this, nitty gritty. And I got to kind of hold feet to the fire to get results. Now that doesn't have to happen as much as because they're growing and evolving too. And just like I have to grow and evolve as a leader as well. So super exciting. Again, now it's kind of primed to grow and continue to scale. We can't scale a bad product, but we're going to bet on ourselves based off our foundation and our systems now. Now it's just a matter of just doing more of what we do. Success is really boring. So now it's just kind of rinse and repeat. It's also funny too, because the kind of running joke, I'll sit with my staff right now, look at all the ideas we have, look at all the stuff look at all of our issues that's broken, look at all that stuff. I'm just like, man, guys, we really suck. Like, how on earth are we doing this? Someone's going to figure this out. Like, we don't have no idea what we're doing. And it's kind of like, say it tongue in cheek because, but one of our core values is live a complacently kills lifestyle. So that's my way of reminding them of like, you see this now, you see the bigger board. It's not just like go through your day. Like, you understand all these moving parts now, then it's like it gets everyone aligned with that. And again, they're highly autonomous because they care. So I'm really excited where it's headed, but we know where we're going for the most part, right? But even if that's the thing, we know where we're going, but I know if we got sideswiped, we could recover, right? So because of our systems is so strong, because of our alignment is so strong with that. So that took a lot of work to do. I'm really proud to say that. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And that's why it's super important, I think, for owners and leaders, not only to constantly grow and evolve, but like you got to get with some people. You got to get with some people that are a year or two ahead, or even if they're just, it's not even a year's thing. It's like it's a situation thing. What experiences have you had? It's an experience thing. What experiences have you had that I haven't dealt with yet? Right. And again, I told you before, like I've spent a lot of time in meetings, a lot of different masterminds, a lot of different individuals. And you have to go in it where it's just like, man, I don't have that issue, but if I did, this is how I do it. And now if I did have it, I kind of have a framework on how to make a decision. So I'm not totally off track, totally emotional about it, responding to the stress for the first time. It's like, no, I've been trained for this. I've been ready for this. I heard this years ago. I think I have a little bit of direction, or better yet, at least I know who to talk to. So, but I think that's that's super important is to get around those groups of people, start to not only just train yourself for those situations, but like I said before, you're training your mental capacity, your emotional capacity to respond to this. Because if you want to grow, if you want to get big, if you want to have kind of a bigger operation, then that training like starts now. And so I think that's what you have to kind of look at, especially as you're planning the next year. You can do more of the same for sure. You can keep going some of this stuff, but you need fresh eyes on that. Like again, I look at my business all the time and evaluating. Like I was just joking with, like, hey, yeah, we're not good at this yet. And yeah, we're good, but we're not the best in the world at it yet. And that's our goal. That's our rallying cry for the most part. So I said that 5 years ago. was kind of like, we're not really the best in the world. We can't really say that. It kind of doesn't hit. And now it's like, yeah, actually, we're going to be pretty good at this stuff. So it's kind of real. And then our team sees that too. And that motivates them as well. But I would never have gotten there without some extra guidance, some extra pushing, constantly learning to be able to do that, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know what you don't know. And you need fresh eyes to tell you, hey, this is broke, or hey, you're going to solve this. You're going well right now, but what happens if this happens? You like better. It's good to have those, that premortem thought, those premortem thinking and thoughts, and have a strategy to do that. So, yeah, a lot of stuff covered here today, GR. I don't know, like we're just scratching the surface, I think, a little bit, but
I know. That was like a fucking incredible episode, and I wish we could film like 3 more right now because I think there's like 18 different rabbit holes we could go down that would be deeply valuable. But I want to be respectful of your time, Mr. Marky Mark. So appreciate the hell out of you. I feel like this was an absolute banger. If you don't feel like this was a banger, you're fucking wrong and need to re-listen and
don't
do
know
an
what you don't know.
inventory of your life because you don't know. But man, thanks so much for sharing all this stuff. I think it's an incredible episode, ton of value. And if you want more of this, we're gonna hop on with Mark and talk like the deep origins of power, strength, and everything else in future episodes. So love, hugs, appreciate the hell out of you guys, and we will talk soon.